Peace, peace. Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Morgan Myers, tuning in with another story time with Morgan. I'm reading my phone situated. Alright, Instagram and Facebook, and later on YouTube. The Immortal Life of Henrietta by Rebecca Skloot. This book will be sponsored by Live Alkaline Water today because I will be supping. Woo! Best hydration in the nation. Come from black-owned land out in Yadkinville, North Carolina. We ship all over the United States and worldwide. All right. So we're in chapter 11. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can type in Storytime with Morgan or my name, Morgan Myers, and you'll see my channel come up, and you can catch up on all these chapters, other books that I've read, and you can suggest some good books that you would like. I like to highlight black authors, but I am willing to expand what I read as long as it's a good story and we have some good dialogue about it. So let's hop into it. Chapter 11, The Devil of Pain Itself. By September, Henrietta's body was almost entirely taken over by tumors. They'd grown on her diaphragm, her bladder, and her lungs. Ooh, Lord have mercy. They blocked her intestines and made her belly swell like she was 6 months pregnant. She got one blood transfusion after another because her kidneys could no longer filter the toxin from her blood, leaving her nauseated from the poison of her own body. She got so much blood that one doctor wrote a note in her record stopping all transfusion until her deficit with the blood bank was made up. Wow. When Henrietta's cousin, Emmett Lax, heard somebody at Sparrow's Point say Henrietta was sick and needed blood, he threw down the steel pipe he was cutting and ran looking for his brother and some friends. They were working men with steel and asbestos in their lung and years' worth of hard labor under their calluses and cracked fingernails. They'd all slept on Henrietta's floor, eating her spaghetti when they first come to Baltimore from the country, and any time money ran low. She'd ridden the streetcar to and from Sparrow's Point to make sure they didn't get lost during their first weekends in the city. She picked their lunches until they found their feet, then sent extra food to work with Day so they didn't go hungry between paychecks. She teased them about needing wives and girlfriends and sometimes helping them find good ones. Emmett had stayed at Henrietta so long, he had his own bed in the hallway at the top of the stairs. He'd only moved out a few months earlier. The last time Emmett saw Henrietta, he'd taken her to visit Elsie in Crownsville. They found her sitting behind barbed wire in the corner of a yard outside the brick barracks where she slept. When she saw them coming, she made her bird-like noise, then ran to them and just stood, staring. Henrietta wrapped her arms around Elsie, looked her long and hard in the eyes, then turned to Emmett. She looked like she's doing better, Henrietta said. Yeah, Elsie looked nice and clean and everything. They sat in silence for a long time. Henrietta seemed relieved, almost desperate to see Elsie looking okay. That was the last time she would see her daughter. Emmett figures she knew she was saying goodbye. What she didn't know was that no one would ever visit Elsie again. Good Lord. A few months later, when Emmett heard Henrietta needed blood, he and his brother and 6 friends piled into a truck and went straight to Hopkins. A nurse led them through the colored yard, past rows of hospital beds to the one where Henrietta lay. She'd withered from 140 pounds to about 100. Sadie and Henrietta's sisters Gladys sat beside her, their eyes swollen from too much crying and not enough sleep. Gladys had come from Clover by Greyhound as soon as she got word Henrietta was in the hospital. The two had never been close, but people still teased Gladys, saying she was too mean and ugly to be Henrietta's sister. But Henrietta was family, so Gladys sat beside her, clutching a pillow in her lap. A nurse stood in the corner watching as the 8 big men crowded around the bed. When Henrietta tried to move her arm to lift herself, Emmett saw the straps around her wrists and ankles, attaching her to the bed frame. What you doing here? What you doing here? Henrietta moaned. We come to get you well, Emmett said, to a chorus of yells from the other men. Henrietta didn't say a word. She just laid her head back on the pillow. Suddenly, her body went rigid as a board. She screamed as the nurse ran to the bed, tightening the straps around Henrietta's arms and legs to keep her from thrashing onto the floor as she'd done many times before. Gladys thrust the pillow from her lap into Henrietta's mouth to keep her from biting her tongue as she convulsed in pain. Sadie cried and stroked Henrietta's hair. Lord, Emmett told me years later, Henrietta rose up out that bed, wailing like she was possessed by the devil of pain itself. The nurse shooed Emmett and his brothers out of the ward to the room designated for colored blood collection, where they donate 8 pints of blood. As Emmett walked from Henrietta's bedside, he turned to look just as the fit began to pass, and Gladys slid the pillow from Henrietta's mouth. That there's a memory I'll take to my grave, he told me years later. When them pains hit, looked like her mind just said, Henrietta, you best leave. She was sick like I'd never seen. Sweetest girl you ever want to meet and prettier than anything. But them cells, boy, them cells of hers are something else. No wonder they could never kill them. That cancer was a terrible thing. Lord, ooh, that made me cringe a little bit. Soon after Emmett and his friends visited. Now, I want to go back real quick, though, because when it was describing him and the type of workers he was with that went to go donate her blood, it said, when he heard what was going down, he threw down the steel pipe he was cutting and ran for his brother and some friends. They were working men with steel and asbestos in their lungs and years' worth of hard labor under their calluses and cracked fingernails. Like, they just made it sound like they didn't have even good blood based on the type of line of work they was in. Okay, soon after Emmett and his friends visited, at 4 o'clock on the afternoon of September 24th, 1951, a doctor injected Henrietta with a heavy dose of morphine and wrote in her chart, discontinue all medications and treatments except analgesics. 2 days later, Henrietta awoke terrified, disoriented, wanted to know where she was and what the doctors had been doing to her. For a moment, she forgot her own name. Soon after that, she turned to Gladys and told her she was going to die. You make sure Dave takes care of them children, Henrietta told her sister, tears streaming down her face, especially my baby girl, Deborah. Deborah was just over a year old when Henrietta went into the hospital. Henrietta had wanted to hold Deborah, to dress her in beautiful clothes and braid her hair, to teach her how to paint her nails, curl her hair, and handle men. Henrietta looked at Gladys and whispered, don't you let anything bad happen to them children when I'm gone. Then she rolled over, her back to Gladys, and closed her eyes. Gladys slipped out of the hospital and onto a Greyhound back to Clover. That night, she called Day. Henrietta gonna die tonight, she told him. She wants you to take care of them kids. I told her I'll let you know. Don't let nothing happen to them. Henrietta died at 12:15 a.m., October 4th, 1951. So now we're in part 2. I think I'll save that. I'll save part 2. Alright. That was the end of that. I'll tune in with y'all another time.